Mayor de Blasio issues an apology, sort of, today.
I wish I had done better in the beginning of the administration in terms of focusing on street homelessness as much as we were focusing on shelter homelessness. And I wish I had done better at getting a holistic plan forward.
Take a look at this picture. That's a homeless guy sleeping under the seats on an MTA train, and the mayor was under fire from Governor Cuomo and MTA President Chief Joe Lhota, all saying it was his fault. Well, the mayor stepped up and says, well, I was focusing on homeless in the shelters and not on the train. But it speaks to a bigger problem of whether or not the New York City Police Department is ready to handle these kinds of vagrant issues. Remember, the City Council has already talked about decriminalizing things like turnstile jumping, public urination, and other things. And the question is New York headed back to before the Rudy Giuliani days? I want to bring in an expert, former retired New York City Sergeant Detective Joe Giacalone.
What we're dealing with here is the City Council and Melissa Mark Faverito, who has been trying to decriminalize all these, broken windows crimes like urinating in public, jumping turnstiles. And I think this is leading to a lot of the problems because the cops are kind of caught in the middle.
Are the cops handcuffed in trying to do their job?
Well, I think they stopped writing them for sure because of the confusion. The politicians say they don't want it, but the police department's saying we want it because they know what happens when you don't enforce these. If the cops are caught between the difference between doing something and getting in trouble and then not doing it, they're just not going to do it. That's why you see the summons drop off so much.
Is New York City regressing back to the pre-Giuliani days? I mean, you had years where murders were up around 2,000 a year, and it dropped precipitously after Rudy came in. Are we regressing back?
Well, I certainly hope not. I saw the bad old days. I mean, 1993 was the high water mark. I think we had over 2,300 homicides. So we don't want to see that. But it's about quality of life, Bill, and that's not really what we're dealing with here. I mean, if you got to step over people in order to just get to the subway, that's a problem.
Thank you, Joe. Always good to see you. All right, let me introduce our A-plus panel for tonight. We've got a panel of experts and political strategists. Bill Caruso is back with us. Good to see you, Bill. Jeanette Hoffman, always good to see you. And Andre Richardson. Andre, I'm going to start with you. It seems to me that you've got the politicians going back and forth and, de Blasio under a lot of pressure. How much is appropriate to put on the mayor? After all, the MTA is a state organization.
The mayor's going around touting his affordable housing plan and creating units throughout the entire city. Out of all of those units, only 14% of them are catering to low-income New Yorkers. There is a housing crisis in New York City, and you can't tackle the homelessness crisis without first tackling the housing crisis.
So, Bill, is de Blasio just a complete fraud? I mean, he acts like he's a champion of the downtrodden and the lower class and the low income.
I love how you put that, Bill. I won't put those words exactly, but I will say this to you. He bears a lot of the responsibility. He's the mayor, right? There's an old saying, the buck stops here. And I think there's some things that can be done that don't involve necessarily criminal element or a ticket, or that the mayor can instruct his police force on how to deal with this. And I think Governor Cuomo made a good point. We have homeless resources. And are we directing these folks rather than underneath a subway car?
I'm looking at this picture. Picture's worth 1,000 words. I don't know if this guy has a knife. I don't know if he's mentally stable. Would you feel safe sitting in this seat?
Absolutely not. It's really not a good scenario. I think the mayor and MTA officials really need to do what Rudy Giuliani did. We all talk about Rudy and the broken windows policing, but he doesn't. You don't have to arrest the guy. Take them off the subway, maintain order, make our city safer.
To Jeanette's point, what they're doing now is not working. Whether or not you want to blame the cops for not writing enough tickets or not, they are off by 90% on these low-level offenses. And you've got leaders and voices in city council saying, don't do it. Turnstile jumping, that's fine. Turnstile jumping is stealing. It's not a quality of life issue.
But it's broken windows policing, and numerous studies have been done to show that it doesn't work. But the guy clearly needs help. We don't know if it's addiction. We don't know if it's overpriced housing. There's something.
Well, it did one thing: reduce the murders from 2,000 a year down to the hundreds. So I mean, there was something that worked.
And it also increased.
Something worked. All right, we got to leave it there.